that's the one where Brett was having you kind of slide the mat through and bring that forward. And there's other little tiny ones, but those are the two major ones. And the issues with them is where they connect to not just the knee, but where they connect to the pelvis. They have a tendency of rotating your pelvis forward so that your butt comes out like Donald Duck. Okay, so that's classically what happens. And what he was mentioning about Jerry Ninja, he was feeling some clicking, and that's very common with my dancers and with my rhythmic gymnasts. They would always have clunk, 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 clunk. Usually that's an over-facilitation of the hip flexors. Okay? Meaning dancers and rhythmic gymnasts are pretty much the same thing. They're dancing in form, they're doing all these kicks. Same thing when it comes to capoeira, they're facilitating, meaning they're activating too much sometimes. Now there could be some weakness there, but oftentimes what I see in clinic, they're too wired. Okay? They bypass everything to the nervous system, and the brain thinks, see, the brain only goes to strength and it avoids weakness. That's how it compensates. So this muscle, if in that, when you're bringing the leg up, you're flexing it up, but also it's in that chain, you're also flexing your spine, so to speak. I'm exaggerating, you don't look like this too much. But what happens is, you're not using too much of here, the abdominals, you're going to start using too much from the hip flexors. So that motor engram, as they say, which is a motor program that your brain stores, rather than it has to remember each exact movement at each angle and degree of movement or whatever. The body stores patterns of movement in its nervous system. So that's what the motor program is. So if your motor program says hip flexor, hip flexor, hip flexor, hip flexor, those guys are one, not going to just be developed, but they're going to be over-facilitated. Your body's going to use them too much. So what happens is those muscles glide over the joint and cause some anterior or front hip pain or clicking. Usually it's clicking before they start having pain. Over a while, a lot of dancers develop pain because it just keeps on rubbing. What I was telling Ninja before was, this is why a whole body approach is, we're just scratching. This is like one little layer of the onion that we're peeling for you guys. But when someone has that front hip pain, it's usually because the antagonistic muscle, the butt muscle, is just disconnecting. It's just not coordinating with this. So what Brett was saying was, when you're kicking, and this leg, as you're feeling all the clicking, the issues, yeah, you got to strengthen this butt muscle here in your stance leg, but also you got to retrain or activate that butt muscle as well as your abdominals on the kicking leg as well. Now, how do you do that? Well, there's several different ways, but when you have a well-coordinated, a well-balanced program, a corrective exercise program, and you know how to use your hips in all planes of motion, and also when you're what we call a closed chain, where the feet are basically on the floor and you're just going up and down and using muscles that way, as compared to an open chain where my legs are up like this. So when I'm kicking, this leg is connected to the ground, it's closed. The chain is closed. This leg, the chain is open. Okay, so the nervous system works that way. It says, is this an open chain movement? Is this a closed chain movement? And not to get you guys confused, it just means that when you have a well-balanced program that specifically addresses the hips in all planes of motion, they'll be more coordinated, they'll be more aligned. This is why we added a lot of the 3D movements when you're doing the activation drills, because you're using your trunk and your arms as drivers to wake up the nervous system, to wake up all, remember your physiology days, biology days, all those muscle spindles, so to speak, so that when you do a kick, it's not just one guy working, it's everybody working. Okay? And that's what Ninja was saying, was that when he was doing the kicks, he would emphasize more of the abdominals, which is true too. So what's only missing in his program is isolated movements for his butt muscles in all planes of motion. Okay, I'll try to show a little bit later on that too.
And one thing, Jared, that some people it may be counterintuitive. It's like, okay, if my hip flexor is the thing I'm working on, why is Michael making me work with my butt? I don't get that. There's two sides of the joint, and you want to make sure that they're both conditioned. When you go into the kick, it's the front side muscles, but what pulls the leg back? When you go up and you thrust hard, what makes sure your leg doesn't fly out of the socket? The posterior muscles have to fire to put the brakes on, which is the butt. So if you haven't conditioned the butt and you're firing that cannon over and over and over again, what puts the brakes on it? Nothing. And that's, you get this pulling, and that's another reason that I know that I did. When Mokiyu goes and says, kick your leg and pull it down quickly, there's not only a martial art reason to that, there's a functional reason. You need to activate those other side muscles and pull them right back into the right position. Or you kick, do you land in a low jingle where the glutes fire, or do you kind of land up like this? You want to, that's conditioning right in and of itself. Boom, it's not this, it's both glutes that fire that get me down into that position. So, you know, if we're trying to work on one muscle, there's probably another one, and there's a reason for that. Yeah, we do that.